And if you clicked on this video, you've probably heard of Sly Cooper. And if you haven't, why did you click on this video? But since you did, hello, thank you for being here. I play a lot of crazy games. So you can subscribe for a participation trophy, or don't, and leave a like for the downfall of capitalism. Also, if I sound sick, it's because I'm a bit sick. Sick of there not being any new Sly Cooper games. No, but really, it's been 2 weeks and I feel terrible. Sly Cooper is a game series developed by Sucker Punch from the early 2000s. It features a raccoon thief and his friends Murray the Hippo, who talks like the boulder from Avatar: The Last Airbender.
The Murray will renew your fear.
The boulder feels conflicted about fighting a young blind girl.
And Bentley the Turtle, that is considered the brains of the operation. Obviously because he wears glasses. Only smart people wear glasses. Like this guy, who I can't actually get the glasses to stay on because he doesn't have any ears. The team goes on heists, evades the police, and potentially awakened a lot of millennials to their inner furry. I shouldn't even say potentially, I personally know people that it's happened to. But since all of these games were released for the PlayStation 2 and 3, it's been very difficult to find a way to play them again outside of eBay, expensive PlayStation Plus subscriptions, or straight up good old piracy. That is until the first Sly Cooper game was ported and re-released onto the PlayStation Store last June. That inspired me to make my last video on this series, where I platinumed every single version of Sly 1, except for the PlayStation Vita version, and I hear you, I'm working on it. I'm not actually working on it. You know how hard it is to record a PlayStation Vita? But if you'd like to see that video first before we hop into Sly 2 and 3, there's gonna be a link down below as well as one at the end of the video. But the reason I'm making this video right now is that both Sly 2 and Sly 3 also had their PS2 ports available on the PlayStation Store. Which means on top of the PS3 trilogy, that's 6 more platinum trophies that I can collect. And then I'm also just gonna add Sly 4 into the mix too to round it all out. And that way I can officially say that I have every single platinum for every single Sly Cooper game. Except for Bentley's Hack Pack. The Bentley mini games are bad enough as it is. I don't need an entire video game about them. And then of course the Vita games, but I really tried, I promise. So anyways, that's what I'm gonna be doing today. Not only am I comparing the old trophy list to the new ones, but I'm also taking a trip down memory lane to see what made these games so beloved. And maybe even answer the question as to why they never made any more. So without further ado, let's pick up where we left off with Sly 2. If you remember playing this game, you might recall just how different this game was from the first, and all the improvements to the story and gameplay. The first Sly Cooper game had miniature hubs that you would use to access each level, and every level was a linear platforming stage where the goal was to reach the end and collect a key. Each level also had bottles to find and collect with a safe to open at the end to unlock new abilities. So there was plenty of collectibles for that 100% criteria. Sly 2, on the other hand, took a much more thief-like approach to its gameplay. I think many would describe it like Assassin's Creed, but with furries. I mean, think about it. It's got you scaling rooftops, sneaking around, there's tailing missions, and even pickpocketing. The only thing it's missing is the non-subtle overtones of overthrowing a tyrannical government. There is still murder though. But to tackle all the trophies, we gotta first break down what the main trophies are and how to get them. Since this is a PS3 game that I'm streaming through my PS5, there's no good way for me to bring up the trophy list while playing the game. You can see the trophy list from your profile, but it only updates after you close out of the game, so I had to be a bit creative. I'm just kidding, I marked them off on my PC instead. Tummy Trouble! Alright, where's that one on here? Tummy Trouble, here we go. We're getting there, we only got a few more to go. A majority of trophies are completed as you go through the story, so we're gonna run through that and analyze what kind of challenges come along with it. And that starts from the beginning. Sly 2 is broken up into 8 different episodes, which is actually pretty crazy that Sly Cooper came up with the 8-episode season years before Disney Plus and Netflix made it the meta. Sorry about that joke, I know it wasn't funny. Quick editor's note while I've got this up. Why does Sly's face look like that? What did they do to his eyes? The story has Sly and friends trying to collect all of the clockwork parts from the last game's villain, but upon arriving, it appears that they've already been stolen. Carmelita thinks Sly did it, which is ridiculous because, like, why would he be there if he did? How stupid do you think he is?
Did you steal this?
I just got here.
So you don't deny it!
The clockwork parts were actually stolen by the members of the Claw Gang, and each episode has Sly tracking down different parts to get them back. The first episode introduces us to Dimitri, who is currently using the clockwork feathers for his printing press. And it's in this section of the game where I learned a lot about this sequel. Like for instance, you get a health bar now that scales depending on which enemy is attacking you, so you no longer die in one hit no matter what. There's no more lives, so you can continue playing whether you succeed or fail. And instead of linear levels, you play missions in a small explorable hub area that has extra little areas that you can enter and exit for some special missions. Collecting coins is still important though, not just because there's a couple trophies tied to collecting them, but also because you need to buy special abilities from the shop, and many of those are tied to specific trophies too. This is helped by the fact that there are new treasures hidden in the levels that you can collect and bring back to the hideout. Here, Bentley can sell them on the Thief Network, but he describes this the same way that my grandma describes selling her used junk on Facebook Marketplace.
If you manage to get the original painting back to me in one piece, I can sell it through my internet connections and make us a ton of coins.
Some of the missions in the first episode have you doing things like pickpocketing keys out of guards' pockets, blowing up a nightclub as Bentley, shoving rats into a sewer drain as Murray, or trying to follow our new friend Neela as she does whatever this is. After you, m'lady! She got a whip! She's trying to get me to move! After completing all the missions, there's a final heist and a boss fight against Dimitri that gives you a trophy for completion. Episode 2 gives us a better picture of all the different villains we'll be seeing throughout the rest of the game. There's a mission involving some elephants that I was told was extremely annoying, and even Bentley specifically calls it out as the hard part, but as long as you jump when the elephant blows their trunk, it's really not that bad. And this episode ends with a special dance routine, giving a new interpretation of rhythm gameplay that I'd argue is definitely better than the rhythm section from the first game. XX triangle X. Episode 3 though, by far is the worst to try to traverse through. It requires you to climb up the treetops and take long, complicated routes just to get to very specific locations. And if you fall, yeah, you gotta go all the way around and do it all over again. From what I've heard, it's on purpose. Supposedly, it's symbolic of what you did to Rajan in the previous level. You stripped him of his status, and now he's gone as crazy as the terrain. And Sly's struggles to circumvent the area is foreshadowing of his upcoming struggles. Or something like that. Psh, I don't know. What do I look like, a smart guy? I'm not even wearing glasses. The episode ends with Murray fighting in hand-to-hand combat and losing. A lot. Which is actually canon because at the end, Neela double crosses us and then sends Sly to prison. But hey, it gives us another trophy! Episode 4 starts with Bentley all alone. And he's got to break his friends out of prison. But it only gets harder for him because Murray decides to beat up 50 dudes and get sent to solitary. That's okay though, because there's like no Murray missions in this level. Just these Bentley hacking missions, which are terrible and I hate them. This is how boomers think hacking works, by the way. I just wanted to throw that out there. These suck. Though I do want to add that I find it funny that the spider webs in this level are considered bouncy. I don't know if you've ever touched a real spider web, but they are not bouncy. They are sticky and gross and they get everywhere. The entirety of this episode revolves around trying to break Murray out of his cell and then breaking him out of his brainwashing. Quick, hide from Dad, he's angry. Father's angry again. And I thought there would be a trophy for completing this episode, but there isn't. I checked. But this is where I have a little bit of a confession. During my playthrough of the game up until this point, I've been collecting every single bottle to try to open all the safes because I thought it was part of the full completion. It turns out there isn't a single trophy for opening any of the safes. There's a couple trophies for collecting some of the bottles, but that's it. Once you've collected 30 bottles, you've gotten all of those trophies, and you don't need to touch another bottle to get the platinum. So I did it in the whole first half of the game for basically nothing. Sometimes you just gotta learn things by doing them though. Like how I learned that collecting all these bottles was useless, and that real spider webs aren't bouncy. Episode 5 has some unique gameplay sequences, like literally releasing ghosts and then recapturing them with some Ghostbusters tech. But I was thinking more like the mission where you have to drive a tank using each control stick as a tread, and you have to push them in either direction to move and turn. Or the Bentley tower defense games where you have to pull switches that are on timers to stop these werewolves from chasing him down and breaking Bentley's ectoplasm. This is also the mission that introduces the glider, which is super cool until I got hit by a plane. Oh, I've been hit! And then the episode ends in an epic fight against Madam Web, and she will not let you run away from it.
Get over here!
You beat Contessa once, and you get a trophy, and then you beat her again in phase 2, and you get another trophy. I mean, hey, I ain't complaining. Episode 6 takes us to Canada, I think, where Jean Bisson is using the clockwork lungs for his trains. It's the heart! Sorry, lung, it's the lung. And I love nearly every sequence in this episode. From the very beginning, you have to take pictures of Bisson's train routes, and if you stay in the room with him, you can actually hear his entire plan as he's having a conversation with one of his acquaintances. That is, unless he just walks into the table that you're hiding under.
What?
He breaks the table? What do you mean he breaks the table? Why would he break his table? Because, you know, people just casually do that, I guess. Hum-dum diddly-dum, here I am, walking through my house where— oh, I've walked into my own table! Oh, silly me. No chance that'll happen again. Oh, I've just walked into another one! Gee golly, what a mistake. Guess I'll just go to the IKEA and buy more. One mission here is to launch yourself off of a plane and glide into several balloons and then eventually land back onto one of the moving trains. And there are 2 games that I played over the past 10 years more than anything else, and those are Toontown and Fortnite. Fortnite with its gliding, and Toontown with its running into things in midair. And who would have thought that those 2 games specifically would have prepared me for this moment? Well, I didn't, that's for sure. Because I was very ill prepared for this moment. I've missed one balloon. I've missed every balloon. Alright, now where are we dropping, boys? I missed. But I love doing all of the train sequences. Sneaking through or going in loud, and even blowing up everything with Bentley's helicopter was awesome. Doing all this rewarded me with another trophy. Episode 7 starts great as my camera is so strong it's able to take pictures through solid objects. Yes, that's a picture of a boat. This is also the episode where Sly learns the new ability to climb onto ice as he uses it to scale a lighthouse and also avoid sleeping bears, which I am also just not very good at. There's another minigame where Murray has to enter this underground RC car fighting ring, and I'm pretty sure this is rigged because the only way to attack is with these little attack coins. And all of them fall in front of the enemy RC car, and none of them land in front of my RC car. But I do have one fun fact for this episode. Did you know there are several of these outhouses hidden throughout the level, and some of them have enemies in them? And if you turn your music volume all the way down, you can actually hear one of the ducks shitting inside of it. I hate that. I hate that so much. I'm writing this down. I just wanted to share that. But the pinnacle point of this episode is having to cheat in the Lumberjack games against Jean Bisson. It actually gets so bad to the point where Sly and the gang have to kidnap the judges, steal their clothes, and then pose as them to give Bisson a bad score. And of course he doesn't fall for it. I mean, look at these disguises. Who would fall for that? This is less convincing than a Scooby-Doo disguise. After coming to, there's an epic showdown between Bentley and Bisson in my favorite boss fight in the game, as Bentley asks Sly to set off different traps to deal damage. But it's all in vain as Bisson gets away and takes all of our clockwork parts along with him. But hey, at least I got another trophy. The final episode takes place in a giant airship where we see Neela once again double-cross someone to take all the clockwork pieces for herself. In order to prepare ourselves for our final battle, we complete a few more standard missions like pickpocketing some keys from guys who stared right at me as I did it. And then we finish up with some of the last hacking missions, but this time they're actually fun because you can ricochet the bullets off of the wall and hit enemies at some fun angles. There is one cool added effect in this episode where Sly is given a mega jump that he can pair with his glider to cover far distances and reach new areas. This is a super fun gimmick and could be very helpful when trying to find all the final secrets to get 100%. Except that this ability appears in this mission and then never again. So that sucks. The final boss is a combination of a helicopter section, which is tough to aim without aim assist, followed by a parkour section that has absolutely zero inertia in it, so landing all of these jumps is terrible. What? But we finally get up to the giant metal bird to land the final blows. The problem is, as a first-time player, I didn't know where to hit this stupid chicken. I'm swinging everywhere. They need a big target or something right over the face that's like, swing here, stupid. And then upon landing the final blow, a couple more trophies go through and the game is over. And then the game tells me to go outside. Go outside? I don't want to go outside. I've been outside and there's spider webs out there. And they're terrifying. After completing the game, I've knocked off just about every trophy, so there's only a few left to go. And that was to buy the remaining power-ups from the list. I think specifically that one, and that one, and this one. I didn't buy that one. So I spent another hour or so collecting a few more coins, stealing a few more treasures, and upon purchasing the final item, I got my first platinum trophy. And honestly, it wasn't that bad at all. The game was a ton of fun, and I completed everything in about 15 hours. This is just the warm-up though. The hors d'oeuvre, if you will. I still gotta do that 2 more times. And this time a little bit different because the trophies for the PS4 and PS5 version are a little bit different. So, let's get ready for it. Aside from having a different trophy list, the PS2 port of Sly 2 has 2 different downloadable versions, one for the PS4 and one for the PS5. The difference between these 2 versions is that one of them says PS4 and one of them says PS5. Otherwise, yeah, it's exactly the same game, exactly the same trophy list. But because it exists twice, that's 2 more platinums that we can get from each one. It's like a buy one get one free deal, except now you don't have to feel bad about getting a second tub of ice cream that you know is going straight to your hips. Let's go over some specific examples though. The first major difference that I noticed, and it might just be me, but doesn't the PS2 port look better than the PS3 remaster? It could be that the PS3 version is being streamed over PS Plus, where the PS2 port is running natively on the console. But I swear, it never looked this good on the original PS2. This is a bigger glow up than The Last of Us 2 to The Last of Us 2 Remastered. Wait, sorry, hold up. This one's the remastered. My bad. As you would expect, most of the trophies come from playing and beating the game. The minor differences come from getting a trophy every episode after you complete all the jobs, instead of there just being 2 random trophies for one boss, and then absolutely no trophies at all in episode 4. Otherwise, the main story went about the same. Being double-crossed by Neela doesn't hurt any less the second time, the Bentley hacking sections still suck, the RC minigame still feels rigged, and the parkour section and the final boss still doesn't have any inertia, so I fell there a lot. Oh, I did it again, I slipped off of it! Where are you going? But here is where this game is a little different. And by a little different, I mean a lot different. The trophies are way different from here on out. There's now a trophy for opening the safe in every episode, so now I need to find every bottle in the game. Which isn't a big deal because I already found all the bottles in the first 4 episodes during my PS3 playthrough, so as long as I retrace my steps, I can clean up the first 4 episodes pretty easily. It's the last 4 episodes that I had a little bit of trouble with. Like this one bottle in the very far corner of the map in episode 6 that I spent probably the better part of half an hour looking for. One big tip is that you can turn your music volume all the way down, and then you can hear the clink of the bottles and use that sound to find them. I'm actually kind of impressed with how well the 3D audio works in this game. Like, it was pretty easy to tell which direction these sounds were coming from. The PS2 port of Sly 2 unironically has better 3D audio than most competitive games. Take notes, Valorant. Just be careful with finding bottles in episode 7, as you do risk hearing more goons taking a when you turn your music volume down. Finding all the bottles in episode 8 isn't necessarily the easiest due to the level size and its elevated areas, but I waited until the mission with the mega jump, and instead of going straight for the waypoints, I used the mega jump and glide to get around easier and collect all the bottles that I missed. If I can't have it in all the other levels, I'm at least gonna use it in this one. And opening each safe in each level grants you a trophy, and for some reason, Sly is shaking really bad each time he does it. I can't tell if he's nervous, scared, or he just had too much caffeine. G Fuel, code Megasnoop. Another set of trophies, new to the PS2 ports, are special events and challenges that you independently complete in each episode. Some of these I did without even realizing it, like finding the 10 cash briefcases in the first level, or destroying 5 outhouses in episode 7. Unfortunately, that means the goons don't have anywhere left to so my sincerest apologies, goons. There's usually 2 of these in every level that you have to go a little out of your way to complete, but not all of them are necessarily that hard. The first episode also has you just walking up to the turntable in the club as Bentley and giving it a good whack. So I wouldn't call that challenging by any means. But the following level has Bentley trying to get onto the roof of the palace, which is just straight up impossible without his hover power up. The other special achievement from episode 2 requires you to bring an enemy back to the hideout as Murray. The one caveat is that there are steps right in front of the hideout, and Murray can't jump while holding something. Might be one of those like brain disconnection things, how some people can't rub their head and pat their tummy. So you specifically have to get the Murray jump power up first before you can complete this challenge, which is a lot of extra work for something that I can only imagine is going to end up in an awkward conversation.
Hey guys.
Hey Murray, what do you got there, bud?
Oh, this? A smoothie.
Episode 3 also has briefcases to break open, just like in episode 1, but these ones are in much more protected locations. Like literally hiding behind laser walls and locked behind doors that you have to blow open with dynamite. The other special requirement in episode 3 is to defeat 3 enemies with the turret in the tower. And I'll tell you what, I had no idea you could even go into this tower until I looked up this trophy. This was news to me. Episode 4 only has 1 special trophy, and that's to use 3 very specific bombs on 1 enemy. And in my experience, one of the bombs wouldn't work sometimes, or it would just end up hitting the wrong enemy, and I'd like to call false advertising on this one. I want my money back. Episode 5 has one that is more of an Easter egg where you have to pay respects to a ghost. That means you gotta clear out this whole area in one of the crypts and then stand in the corner and look towards the coffin. And maybe if you're lucky, something will appear. It's supposed to be a reference to Sucker Punch's first game, Rocket Robot on Wheels, but sometimes the trophy will just appear even if nothing else does. And there's one in episode 6 where you have to beat up a bear without taking any damage as Murray. Anyone who has ever played Tekken against Donkey knows exactly how hard this is. Gotcha! But as long as you keep attacking, the bear becomes stun locked, so this shouldn't be that hard. No, the other one had to come out of nowhere, didn't it? But for some reason, it didn't give me the trophy the first time I did it, so I had to do it twice. But the next set of trophies are a little unique because of the fact that they're character-specific ones. Like, one is to defeat 5 guards with Murray's Fist of Flame, another is to pickpocket 5 pieces of loot in a row without being detected as Sly, and then the third is to shrink 4 guards at once as Bentley, and the trick to this one is just to get a bunch of guards to chase you around and then throw a bomb and run. So you'll notice that a lot of these trophies require gadgets and abilities that you have to buy off of the Thief Network. So already, you can tell that the list of items you need to purchase is a little longer in this version. The PS3 version only required you to buy 10 specific abilities, but the PS2 port has a trophy that specifically requires you to buy all of them. On the bright side, you don't have to worry about buying an ability you're not going to use, because you have to get all of them anyway. And to put that in a more tangible goal, getting every item in the game requires over 24,000 coins. That's a lot of tamales, assuming that the going rate for tamales is still 25 coins each. So, how many tamales can Sly Cooper purchase with his 24,000 coins? Jeremy. What? 10? What was the question? Jeremy, this is the 4th time this week you've fallen asleep in class. What? No, I was just reviewing Sly 2. I'm afraid you're 1 over your limit. I'm gonna have to send you to the principal.
No, this would have never happened if I was smart and wore glasses.
It's okay though, because the one other trophy that's left after that is to steal 50 unique pieces of loot. And by doing so, you'll probably have enough coins to buy all the abilities, right? Well, there's another problem. The last trophy asks you to sell 50 unique pieces of loot, which means you can't just sell 50 small nuggets over and over. You have to go through every level and find different types of loot. There's only about 55 total different kinds of loot in the game, so you need to make sure you're searching up and down every single episode and pickpocketing every type of enemy to get them all. This extra sucks when you haven't been keeping track of any of the loot that you've already stolen, so you have no way of knowing which ones you need to go back and find. So let's break it down real quick. Okay, now that we've done that, let's look at how loot works in this game. Every episode has 3 special pieces of loot hidden somewhere for you to steal and bring back to Bentley, minus the first level that has 4 because it additionally has the painting that you steal during the story. Getting each and every one of these will bring your total to 25, and that gets you halfway there. It just would have helped if I had started doing this from the beginning, so I didn't forget which pieces of loot I had already stolen. The other 25 come from pickpocketing. Every time you see something shiny in a guard's back pocket, it's an opportunity for loot. The problem is, you don't know what you're gonna get until you steal it. Is it gonna be a nugget? Is it gonna be a comb? Is it gonna be the Declaration of Independence? Should probably get that back to Nicolas Cage. But the best way to think about this is to picture it like Pokemon. If you want to catch them all, you have to go to every route and try every patch of grass because some Pokemon only appear in certain areas. The loot in Sly 2 is different from episode to episode and can differ depending on which type of enemy you take it from. So your best bet is to just make sure that you're stealing from every enemy that you see that has loot, and then doing that in every episode until the trophy eventually pops. It only took me about an extra 2 hours to go out of my way to get all the loot that I needed, so it really wasn't that bad, and after I got all of the loot and bought all of the upgrades, I finally got my next platinum trophy. Honestly, I love it when they add more fun things onto the trophy list that gets you trying new abilities that you wouldn't have before, or exploring parts of the game that you never seen. I probably would not have used any of these Bentley upgrades if it wasn't for these trophies asking me to do so, and I never would have known this turret exists in episode 3 without looking up the trophy. So going for this platinum trophy was genuinely a lot of fun, and I honestly wouldn't mind doing it all over again. Which is exactly what I'm about to do. Alright, let's do this one last time. Clockwork parts are stolen, Neela double crosses us, Scooby-Doo disguise, hit the giant bird in the face. The only difference now is that I beat the RC car fight on my first try. Did I win? I won! First try, let's go! Okay, that's not the only difference. Having the knowledge of already beating the game twice, I'm much better equipped now to be able to play the game and earn all the trophies more efficiently. I'm talking about 0% completion to full platinum in about 12.5 hours. Yeah, we got this on lock. And here's how. Before I get into that though, I might be a little crazy, but I swear this version of the game weirdly looks slightly worse than the last one. Does anyone else see the difference? Am I going insane? So before, when I said there wasn't any difference between the PS4 version and the PS5 version, I might have been wrong, because I think I might have found one. It seems like the PS5 version looks slightly better. However, it's now crossing my mind that I never told you that the first one I played was the PS5 version. So maybe I'm lying and this one is the PS5 version. And it's the PS4 version that looks better. Or better yet, this one was the PS3 version the whole time, and this one was The Last of Us 2 Remastered. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. Anyways, now knowing what I have to do in every episode means I can make sure I go out of my way to do everything while I'm still working on the story. Going for every bottle, stealing every treasure, and looting every enemy. And I even made sure to do all of the special trophy challenges during the episodes whenever I could. I hit the turntable as Bentley in episode 1, found all the briefcases in episode 3, and even did the Easter egg in episode 5, which is now the Buc-ee's mascot instead of a robot for some reason. It's the Buc-ee's guy! It's the Buc-ee's mascot! What the heck? The only exceptions were in episode 2 since I needed Murray's jump and Bentley's hover abilities, and you don't unlock those until later in the game. But once I had them, I went back and did these right away. And weirdly enough, when I brought a goon back to the hideout as Murray, this time the enemy was still visible in the hideout. Look, it's on his head! What the heck? It didn't do that before! What's it doing on his head? I can't imagine that this was on purpose, and it's probably not supposed to happen, but God, I wish it was. The other exception was episode 4, since you need 3 of Bentley's upgrades that you also don't unlock until later. But nothing funny happened with this one, I just ended up doing it first try. And although this is my 3rd time playing this game, I was discovering things that I hadn't noticed before. Like at the beginning of episode 7, you're actually supposed to use the ice picks to climb up the ice wall to get to the first mission. And here I was just jumping and gliding from one of the sawmills. For some reason, I never thought to do it any other way. This is literally just a me problem. I know, I get it. I'm bad at listening to directions. It's fine, I figured it out. And the other new thing I discovered is that you do not want to see Sly without his hat, because that's terrifying. But some things don't change no matter how many times you play the game, like the ducks pooping. music to my ears. By continuing the process of gathering all the loot, treasures, and doing the bonus missions as soon as possible, I was able to get just about every trophy done before I started the final boss. I even got the 50 unique pieces of loot by chapter 8 just by being diligent and pickpocketing every enemy I saw that had a shiny butt. The only thing left for me to do was buy all the upgrades, and I was just short around 1600 coins. So with another 20 minutes or so of reaching down some enemies' pants, I was able to collect enough loot to sell, and I could purchase the last item, earning the final trophy. And that was it! 3 platinums from Sly 2, a terrific game that transformed the franchise and made it a staple in PlayStation history. Except for episode 3. Hate that episode. Do not recommend that episode. Otherwise, it's fantastic. And I highly recommend it to anyone who is a fan of the first game, or anyone who just happens to like Assassin's Creed, but is tired of what Ubisoft is doing to the franchise. But with the completion of Sly 2, we're only getting started. Not really though, because I mean there's only Sly 3 and Sly 4 left. So like if anything, we're a little more than halfway done. Doesn't matter though. Let's get into Sly 3. Before starting with Sly 3, I took a quick glance over the trophy list. You know, the only way that I can. Everything looked slightly similar to the other games. Beat the game, buy most things, get the platinum. But it is slightly different. But we'll get into that. Since you do get most of the trophies for playing the game, let's jump into the game and see what we're getting ourselves into. Sly 3 is many people's favorite Sly game, and it's pretty easy to see why. There's a riveting and easy to follow story, great new characters, recognizable returning characters, new interesting gameplay mechanics, and hilarious dialogue.
I'll floss my teeth with your spine!
The game starts with Sly and his gang on an island that has the fabled Cooper Vaults, and they're trying to break into it before the evil Dr. M can. And I'm not just saying evil Dr. M like some sort of empty adjective. This guy is a monster. He knew one of his employees had a wife and a kid, and then still poisoned him for not changing a password. That is heartless. And unironically a great way to introduce your main villain. So bonus points for that. But getting back to the main gameplay, there is no way that I can't relate this to Persona 5. I'm sure Atlas was playing this game and was like, this is brilliant! Because you begin with your main character literally mid-heist while your friends hop on the mic and give you updates. But they're all silhouettes so as not to spoil who will be joining your team when you jump back. And that is exactly the premise of Sly 3. There's several episodes to play, and each episode is a small story about how another member is joining your team, until you have a full roster and are ready to complete the final heist. Except in Persona, there's a little bit of story afterward, and then half of your companions get mad at you for dating all of them at the same time. Jumping back into the heist though, it seems as though Sly has failed, lost his cane, and is about to be crushed by a monster. And then you get a trophy for it. This is when we jump back to a tutorial. Yeah, this is actually like the first game that completely pulls you out of the experience to teach you how to play it. But I'm not really upset because this game did have new things to teach me that the other games didn't have. Like how Bentley and Murray can both loot enemies now, whether it's Bentley's magnetic pickpocketing or Murray's literal shakedown. Shake him loose, shake him, let's go, I got a prize. But finally jumping into the episodes, it is worth mentioning that although Sly 2 had 8 episodes, Sly 3 only has 6. Which makes it sound like it's a shorter game, but each of the episodes are slightly longer to make up for it. Though it should be noted that a lot of this time comes from cutscenes. There is a ton of cutscenes in this game. I know fans wanted that Sly Cooper movie to be real, but why do you need it when you can just watch the several hours of Sly 3 cutscenes instead? Just 30 minutes of it are the animated cutscenes. That's like a whole episode of Teen Titans. The good one, not the weird remake that went on for 3 times as many seasons somehow. But let's jump into episode 1 in beautiful Venice, Italy. We begin without Murray as he's left to go find inner peace or something. More like the inner piece of a pie, am I right? Haha. Murray says he'll rejoin the team if the dirty water runs clean. And that's when Sly and Bentley discover that the mob boss Don Octavio has been dumping tar into the river. At least I think that's what he's doing. Honestly, I can't even understand him.
Pass a word to the rest of the guards that under no circumstances am I to be disturbed during my big comeback recital.
I don't speak Italian.
But I guess the goal is stop Octavio, get Murray back. Sly needs some help, so that's when he turns to our first reoccurring character, Dimitri. And this is where we get to see one of the new gameplay segments, choosing dialogue options. And whenever the option to flirt comes up, you bet I'm gonna choose it. And I know I'm flirting with him, but I didn't expect Dimitri to say sex this many times.
Big with the payback and the sex appeal.
Whoa, you can say sex in this game? And really, now that you mention it, there is a lot of sexual overtone in this game. Way more than I expected there to be, which was 0. I expected there to be 0. And I'm pretty sure that's because when Sly 2 was released in 2004, there was a solid line between games that were rated E and games that were rated T. But when E10 Plus was introduced in early 2005, the developers knew they could push the boundaries of their characters and storytelling with the new rating. So it's literally because E10 Plus was created that we get this new raunchy version of Sly Cooper.
Packing too much sexy muscle.
It's probably also why they allow us to get such a close-up of these policeman's toes. There's a few other unique gameplay segments in this episode, like this boat chase, which can be a ton of fun, but I just wish the gun didn't overheat so quickly. There's also this rhythm section that was reused from Sly 2, and also Murray's new ball movement, which is unironically how I get around the house.
Later, losers. I gotta go to the bathroom. Oh. Alright, time to go to bed.
But I could go on and on about the missions in this episode. I love searching the paintings to find the codes that unlock the safes behind them. Playing as Carmelita for the first time was an awesome change of pace, and I'm pretty sure inspired the gameplay for Marvel Rivals. I mean, if I showed my mom these two side by side, I'm pretty sure she'd believe they were the same game. And even the cleverness of wearing a disguise to try to figure out what Tony B's nickname is by talking to some of the other guards. It brings a bit of personality to the enemies that you wouldn't normally think twice about killing, and a bit of perspective towards the NPCs that we would have never seen. It's kind of like what they tried to do in The Last of Us Part 2 by having the enemies call out to each other when you shoot one. But the difference is, I don't remember a single enemy's name from The Last of Us 2, but I will always remember Tony B. In the final battle, you beat up Octavio with Murray, and he rejoins the team. And then you get a trophy for completing it. But yeah, that was all in one episode. I'm not kidding when I said that they were longer. Episode 2 takes Sly and his friends to the Outback, not the steakhouse. And although this isn't what you'd expect Australia to look like, this is what it looks like in Ty the Tasmanian Tiger, which also takes place in Australia, so I guess I'll have to take their word for it. The goal of this episode is to rescue and recruit Murray's guru that was teaching him his inner peace. And that somehow turns into fighting a giant Carmelita at the end, climbing up her thigh, staring into her eyes. Yeah, they knew what they were doing with this E10 Plus rating. This is the episode where Murray not only becomes himself again, but also the episode where they overuse the word minor.
Teach him to like eating minors, huh?
Stop phrasing it that way!
Somebody should double check and make sure that Dr. Disrespect didn't play this game. There are a few missions that stick out during this episode, like the one where you have to purposely flip over this monster truck to trap scorpions, and the truck never quite wants to flip the way you want it to. There's a mission which is basically a bar fight, and that's a ton of fun to play, and also gives you a trophy. And then after unlocking the guru, you play a couple missions as him too by taking over enemies' bodies and controlling them with your mind. And I also can't understand a word he's saying either. Dude talks like a Rayman character.
It's only considerable like me.
All the while, the game has been trying to track down this mask that enlarges and powers up whoever is wearing it. And I'm sure you can guess by now, it ends up on Carmelita. This is what leads to the giant fight where you toss barrels at her with a giant crane, and then climb up her body to remove the mask, thus granting you another trophy. Episode 3 continues to push the boundaries of the E10 Plus rating, because we get to see Bentley be a little perv. Whoa, keep it in your mouth. What is going on with the sexual overtones of this game? Our mission is to find Bentley's little girlfriend Penelope and recruit her to the team. And your fun fact is that Penelope in this game is voiced by the same person who does Freddy Fish in the Freddy Fish games.
There you go, Sly. I know who Mr. Big is.
And if you didn't know that, you're probably not as old as I am. Our main goal of this episode is to win the Biplane Battle Royale by doing several missions to try to pin the other competitors against each other. This episode has a familiar face too, as Mugshot returns again, and to top it all off, the fight with Mugshot takes place as Carmelita, in probably the most fun part of the episode. Well, the most fun part of the episode is either that, or telling jokes as Murray.
Why did the chicken cross the road to France? Because it wasn't Turkey. And you see, the chicken's not a turkey or a Turk. It's a chicken! A French hen!
That was just the worst joke I've ever heard. There's also this boat mission where you have to row a boat through the sewers as Murray, and that one isn't too bad. I just wish I could hold X to move forward instead of constantly spamming it. And unfortunately, there are some less favorable missions, like having to protect the hangar by picking up enemies with this little copter drone thing and then flinging them away. But this works best when the copter drone actually picks them up. And of course, the Bentley hacking missions are back. Yay! But the craziest part of this episode has to be the actual dogfighting. The mission criteria is to clear out all 25 of the other planes in the air. You have to understand, it's not to be the last plane remaining out of the other 25, it's to defeat all the other 25 planes. Which means Sly needs to specifically be the one taking out each individual plane. This also means if two planes crash into each other, you don't get credit for either of them, just because Sly isn't the one who destroyed them. The amount of times I was about to destroy a plane just for it to crash into another one and not count is enough for me to need therapy for. And the final fight is against the Black Baron in a ruthless battle that took me many attempts. But hey, that's another trophy. And in the end, it turns out that the Black Baron was actually Penelope the whole time. Whoa! I can only assume that this is going to cause a lot of tension between Penelope and the gang, and even more specifically Bentley. So it looks like, oh wait, no, they seem to already be over it. Never mind. Then we have episode 4, which has some huge moments in it, like the reintroduction of the Panda King, and also this enemy glitching into the ground. What the? Wait, what? Okay, yeah, it's a funny glitch, but is it as funny as Sly not even appearing in the cutscene he's supposed to be in?
They're gonna be fangs everywhere.
Didn't think so. The story here is that the Panda King will join our posse if we can help rescue his daughter from the notorious General Tso. Sorry, I can't say that with a straight face. He's a chicken, and his name is General Tso, like General Tso's chicken. It's very good if you haven't tried it. Super delicious. This is the first episode where we get to see a bit of Penelope's gameplay, which is the equivalent of an RCXD from Call of Duty. It's a fun little gimmick with some cool gameplay sections. The only problem is that its turning doesn't take corners well, like at all. Dog? This thing needs some 4-wheel drive. This is also where we get to use one of Bentley's new abilities, the grapple cam. And the best way I can describe this is it's like those little spy bots from the Spider-Man game. It's fun to swing around from place to place, and later it even gets a gun to shoot enemies with. So it's a ton of fun, it just can get stuck in places really easily. There's another mission where you have to disguise Sly as a photographer and take some pictures of the enemies, and then when you get to the last set of photos, this monkey suddenly needs to be the center of attention and keeps getting in the way whenever you take the picture. So we end up just murdering him and nobody bats an eye. But I think my favorite mission in this episode is when you get to play as the Panda King, and his gameplay is to use fireworks to lock onto zombies and blow them all up. It's very Eggman from Sonic Adventure 2-like, but it's a ton of fun and a great way to get some extra coins. And of course another trophy. This episode also features one of the best boss fights in the game, where Sly takes on General Tso. Sorry, I can't, it's so funny. Hopping from bamboo to bamboo, then taking the fight to the ground as they slice and dice up the forest. And then, this episode actually features the second best boss fight too, with this dragon that flies through the air. You have to use some fireworks to launch yourself high into the sky to land on his back, and then make your way to the head where you wail on him while dodging his attacks. The only downside to this boss, similar to Sly 2, is that there's absolutely no inertia when jumping on a moving object. So when you're trying to move up the dragon and jump straight into the air, the dragon moves out from underneath you, and that is a long way down. But if you just give it enough patience, you'll defeat it and earn another trophy. Oh, and Murray finds his van again and has an obsessive attachment to it.
Oh, my sweet van! How I've missed you!
Episode 5 has a fun theme of being surrounded by pirates. Which, now that I really think about it, why do we put so much glorification into pirates? I mean, they plundered, they murdered, they did other things that would get me demonetized if I talked about them, and yet they're the themes of birthday parties, theme park rides, and Halloween costumes. What? Don't judge me. The episode starts with Bentley being more down bad than a Reddit nice guy.
Why do the girls always have to go for Sly? It's just not fair.
Sly has to collect some pirate clothing so he can get some information from another pirate, and that of course leads to another very silly, quirky, funny bug.
Okay, now give me the hat.
All of this leading up to a pirate swear-off, where Sly and the pirate take turns swearing at each other.
What are you all, parrot-loving, toothless cow pie?
Oh, really? You're yellow-bellied.
But the first few missions are pretty on par from what you'd expect from a Sly Cooper game. It's the second half of this episode that turns into Assassin's Creed 4. All the way from riding around on your pirate ship to blasting other pirate ships and boarding them, I really wasn't kidding when I said that Sly Cooper is just Assassin's Creed with furries. And it's kind of annoying, not gonna lie. It's probably just me, but being ganged up on by 3 or 4 ships at once is incredibly anxiety-inducing. The huge plus to this episode, though, has to be the introduction of the treasure map missions. It's simple. You find the spot that the map is directing you towards, and then you follow the directions to the treasure. It's a great concept. Just the treasure happens to be scuba gear that only fits Dimitri. And don't even get me started on Dimitri's scuba diving. So yes, there is a mission in this episode where you get to play as Dimitri when he joins your team, but his missions are to dive underwater. You have to collect a few things as well as take out a few hammerhead sharks, so what's the downside? You know, besides me missing the sharks even though I'm literally touching their butts. What? Well, the controls are terrible. They're so bad. The movement buttons are triangle, circle, square, and X. The movement. Who decided this? This is terrible. I don't actually want to break my controller. Come here. I'm sorry, baby. The final part of this episode has Sly and friends fighting off a whole Kraken, which is really cool, and then having the Guru mind control the Kraken to use it to smash through the enemies. Then the final fight is a simple sword fight between Penelope and Captain Lafouille. With some swipes and dodges, Captain Lafouille is defeated, and with that is another trophy. Now with Dimitri on the team and the gang complete, it's time to jump back to where we started as we begin Chapter 6. Sly is still about to be eaten, so every part of the gang has a role to play to his rescue. And also Carmelita for some reason. She starts us off with a quick fight against the giant monster. The Guru does some shark surfing, and then Dimitri does some quick deep sea diving. And I'll admit, this diving section, not as bad as the last one. Still bad, but not as bad. Penelope drives her RC car, and then Sly climbs aboard the biplane. And it's only now that I learned that you could do a barrel roll, though it was only marginally helpful since the big struggle with this section is to defeat 20 of these dragon planes. On paper it's not that bad because you use a missile to take off their shield, and then shoot them until they explode. And then just do that 20 times. But the problem is, they like to crash into each other, and then neither of them count, and then they both respawn. And if you think that's bad, once I'm on low health, they decide to reenact the habits of a 1940s kamikaze pilot, especially when there's only one left and I couldn't find it. Ooh! Oh, and then I die because it crashed into me. I have to do it all over. I hate it here. But as a contrast, the blimp fight is pretty easy because Homeboy really thinks I'm gonna go inside the odd shapes he's throwing out. That's a good one. Sly finally makes it into the vault and brings us one of the most fun parkouring missions in the whole game. This is Sly Cooper at its finest here, with the precise movement and timing, and also getting to stop every once in a while to learn a little lore about the Cooper family. It's all leading up to this picture of Sly's dad, which is unfortunately cut off, but it's here that Sly learns his final new ability, laser walking, which didn't work on my first try. Nope.
I get it, I can slide on the laser beams.
No, I can't. I tried that. I got hurt. Wait, no, why does it work now? Then it's a segment of Murray and Bentley working together to fend off Dr. M, followed by the big fight between Sly and Dr. M, and finished off with a fight between Carmelita and Dr. M. With the villain destroyed, the cave is going to collapse, and conveniently, Sly has lost his memory. Wow, the biggest plot convenience of all time! I guess they use it as a way for Sly to restart, as Carmelita takes this as a chance to convince him he's been a good guy all along. But if that was the case, why does he still wear the mask when he's around her? No, seriously, what's up with that? Beating the game gives you 2 trophies actually, and with the story complete, that takes care of most of them. But we're still short a few. Some of those requiring the purchase of a few abilities from the Thief Network again, and then the final couple are to completely 100% the game. Which is very vague. Like, what the does that mean? Something you may have noticed, or already knew because you've played this game before, which is exactly why you're here, is that there are no bottles to be found in this game. Something that was a staple in the last two is completely missing from this one. So there are 0 bonus collectibles to find in any of the hub worlds. Instead, the remaining completion comes from the bonus missions that unlock after each episode. Most of these are just the basic missions that you've already done, but require an additional parameter, like completing them within a time limit or taking less or no damage. But every episode also has a treasure map mission, and these are a ton of fun. They typically don't last too long, but are good for seeing these hub areas in a new way. There's also no treasure to collect at the end, but I like to think that the real treasure was the friends we made along the way. Why are you booing me? Most of these are good challenges, and I think the only ones I had an issue with were some of the time limit ones that require you to be on the exact perfect cycle with no leeway, like the cave and drill from episode 2, and then of course the biplane missions from episode 3 because, well, the aforementioned issues that I've had with the biplane missions altogether. Bro! But also, I guess I didn't realize that having to destroy the 3-winged planes meant that I couldn't destroy any of the others. So here I am thinking I'm doing well, but then a blue one crashes into me, and that's mission failed. Bro, no, they were all flying around me, what the heck? But only sometimes for some reason. Like I'll have 3 or 4 of them crash into me, and then it's the 5th one that decides the mission is over. Oh, and then also the grapple mission. That one sucked. He's right there, grab him! Not all of episode 3 is bad though. Like there's a Murray mission where you have to fight off Mugshot, and it's a really easy way to gain coins. As these enemies funnel in, you punch one to one side and hit the propeller, punch the other on the other side to land in the fire, and just keep on doing that for infinite money. Not that I need it right now, but I am definitely writing this down for later. And right as I got into a groove for completing these missions, PSN went down for 2 days. Which means I couldn't play the game. When I hopped back on, I only had a couple more challenges in front of me, the biggest one being the final Cooper Vault that you have to complete within a time limit. This is one of those that you gotta keep trying again and again until you get a flow for it and get it right. But I learned 2 things most of all while doing it. Number 1, that it gives you more than enough time to complete it, so value your health over your speed. And number 2, that you can heal partway through. It took me longer than I'm proud of to realize number 2. Then, once I completely 100%ed the game, I realized I forgot to buy the Diablo Fire Slam, which sounds like a Taco Bell menu item if we're gonna be honest. It turns out learning about that money farm in chapter 8 did come in handy, so I was able to buy the final ability and get the platinum. And yeah, that's it. I think it was a pretty good game. I think the characters, story, and gameplay are all improvements from the second one, but it's also just slightly shorter and they got rid of some of the extras like finding all of the bottles. And I liked doing that, okay? So it kind of hurt when that wasn't in this game too. I liked the sense of completion that I got whenever I found them all, and it was a great way for me to explore the hub worlds and appreciate all the details that were put into them. Now you don't really get to do that. But with all that being said, it's probably on par with the second one, and I like them both about the same, but I'm very interested to see what kind of unique trophies that the PS4 and 5 version has. So let's get into that. When I first started making this video, I bought this on Etsy, and it only just arrived. I gotta find a way to use this somehow in this video. Whoop-a-chow! Anyway, Sly 3. Again, the trophy list for the PS4 and PS5 version of Sly 3 is basically taking what the PS3 version had and just building off of that. So obviously the first step is to go beat the game the same way I just did before, since I get a trophy for each episode completed, and then another trophy for each episode that I finish all the challenges for. The rest of the trophies are a series of additional tasks throughout each of the episodes that are things to do during the episode or special parameters during some of the missions. And my first thought when looking at some of these was, oh boy. Like there are copious amounts of missions in this game that you have to complete without getting hit at all. Too many. Like why are there so many? But I'll show you what I mean as we hop in the game once again. I'm gonna go put this back on the wall. Stay. Starting the game all over again, I'm reminded of just how many cutscenes there are. Like, oh my god, there are so many cutscenes. And they're all lower quality. Like, I know it's the PS2 port, but it looks so much worse. So unfortunately, I will have to sit through all of them again since there is no way to skip them. But on the flip side, at least I can skip some of the tutorials, since I already know how to play and there's no trophies tied to them. Except the first one. I can't skip that one. As I'm getting into the groove of getting the hang of the game again, I got jump scared by a pop-up. Would you like to play using the 3D glasses? What the heck? This is the first time I'm learning that there are 3D missions in this game. Apparently, every episode in this game has one special 3D mission in it, and all of the original copies of the PS2 version came with 3D glasses in the case. Now, unfortunately, I bought this game digitally, so there's absolutely no way they could give me 3D glasses. Like, I don't even know how they would. How would that physically work? What, do they just hand them through the screen like, gee, thanks, buddy? Oh, wow. So I didn't play the level in 3D. However, I did go on Amazon immediately after and purchase a 10-pack for $5. So next time, I'll be ready. The first trophy I ended up getting was the Sly specific trophy for looting 5 guards in a row without being detected. Which is funny because I didn't technically do it in a row. I looted 2 guards, did a mission, and then looted 3 more afterwards. So I guess that counts. I didn't get any of the level specific trophies from episode 1 naturally. However, unrelated, I did realize that you could spam the notes during the Bentley singing mission, and that is hilarious. So I just figured I'd come back later and started episode 2. One of the episode specific trophies is to hit 3 enemies as the guru possessing another enemy. But every time I tried, nothing happened. It wasn't until the mission was over that I realized it said that I needed to attack 3 enemies. I didn't even know I could use the attacks while possessing enemies. But unfortunately, I'll have to come back for that one too. There's another one where you have to defeat 5 guards as Murray, specifically in his ball form, which I got after defeating 9 of them. And then the third special mission trophy was to jump onto Carmelita's tail during the final boss sequence. Grab some tail, heck yeah! And now I think the dev team really knew what they were doing, giving this game an E10+ rating. Moving on to episode 3, Bentley is still a perv and his hacking missions still suck. But I'm also realizing more things in this episode for the first time, like how the bouncy item you used to get on roofs was cheese. I know spiderwebs are supposed to be bouncy, but there ain't no way that cheese is supposed to be bouncy. Here, watch. This is the episode where I earned the pickpocket trophy by pickpocketing enemies as Sly, Bentley, and Murray at least once. Since there are story missions that require you to pickpocket being both Sly and Bentley, as long as you shake down someone as Murray at any time, you'll get this one without even trying. The episode specific trophies are pretty simple and straightforward too. One is to use a plane to get an environmental kill, yay! And another is to climb to the top of this satellite dish that took me longer to find than I'm proud to admit. The third one is the tough one though, because you have to finish the mugshot fight as Carmelita without taking any damage. And that went about as well as you'd expect. Oh, I took damage. Rough. So I'll come back to that one later too. Otherwise, the rest of the episode went about the same. Episode 4 probably has some of the most difficult of these special trophies, as 2 of them require you to do the missions without taking any damage. One of them is to do the whole General Sal fight without getting hit, and the other is to protect Murray and the van without letting them get hit. And of course, I failed that in the first 4 seconds. I've already failed, this sucks! But that's now 3 different trophies that all require you to complete a mission without taking any damage at all. And if maybe there was like 1 or 2 in the game, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But we're already at 3 and there's even more to come. And that's kind of a problem. So it's kind of dumb, and as you'd expect, I didn't get any of them on my first try. So just anticipate that any future ones, I have to go back at the end of the game to try them again. Otherwise, the last trophy from episode 4 is to bounce Murray to the top of this tower, which was no big deal. And then Sly disappeared from this cutscene again. Wait,
Pretty good team.
he did it again!
This is the last.
He's not in the cutscene! It's missing from the cutscene again! Episode 5 has some very interesting trophies, but before I tell you that, check out this dude that fell from the crow's nest, and then literally went to sleep. That's the same dog that bugged out in the PS3 version, and has now fallen from his spot in the PS2 port. This dude is a total mess. and I love him. Our first special trophy comes from the deep sea diving mission, which is the 3D mission for this episode. And luckily it was just in time for my 3D glasses to arrive. And I'm not gonna lie, this kinda sucks. So it does work to an extent, but the problem is that it desaturates everything and basically makes the game black and white. So only a few assets kind of look like they're popping out. And this extra sucks because the trophy wants me to find 4 treasure chests hidden somewhere in this level. And I can't see them. I don't know where they're at. Everything's black and white. They blend right in. Another trophy is to do the Kraken fight without taking any damage. And that did not last long at all. He's shooting it where, oh no, I took damage, no. And then the final special trophy for this episode is to reach the max pirate rank. What the heck does that even mean? Glad you asked. As you defeat ships in this episode, you earn points towards ranking up your pirate status. Every time you sink a ship, that counts as 1 point. And every time you capture a ship, that counts as 2 points. Every 10 points, you level up, and reaching 90 points is max level. Of course, the game doesn't necessarily come out and tell you any of this, so good luck trying to figure any of that out on your own. So yeah, I'm not doing any of that right now. That's also going on the I'll come back to this later list. All the special trophies in episode 6 are linked to the Ancestors Gauntlet, so pretend everything before that went exactly the same way, because it did. It all happened the same way, all the way down to the dragon planes crashing into each other. And then me. Dog! The first of the 3 trophies is to smash 30 cobwebs, which is so easy, you're probably gonna do it without realizing it. The second is to receive a message from the computer at the end, which just means to stand in front of the computer until the trophy pops up. And then the last one is to do the entire level without taking damage. I'm just gonna preemptively put this one on the list. But I completed that level, beat the final boss, and finished the game. And seriously, why is this so blurry? I went back and did all the episode challenges again, and even got an additional trophy for checking out all the galleries for each episode. Because good art should be appreciated. Pay your artists what they're worth. Please. They're starving out there. But now it's time to circle back and complete all the missions I missed before. Or the ones that were just too hard and are gonna take several attempts. And can I just state how annoying it is to do some of these levels without taking any damage whatsoever? Especially since the part I need to complete doesn't come until after I do a whole other section of the mission first. So if I fail, I have to go back and redo the first part of the mission too. So it's a good thing that this time I did every single challenge on the first try. No, really, I did. I mean, technically I did. Let me explain. So I kind of cheated. Not like the Dr. Disrespect kind of cheated. Although that is 2 Dr. Disrespect references in one video. That's a new record. What I mean is, I used my resources. This is being played on a PS2 emulator that's built into the PS5. Which means it has some special emulator properties like pausing and rewinding. And now you see exactly where this is going. I went back to every portion that I needed to do flawlessly, started the mission, and if I got hit, I just rewound and picked up where I left off. Maybe it's cheating, okay? I get it, right? But for all intents and purposes, I finished the level without getting hit, and the game gave me a trophy for it. I'm not here to argue ethics and morality, I'm just here to get the platinum trophies. And it's a tool that didn't hurt anyone, and everyone who plays this game has access to it. So is it really unethical? Maybe. So if you want to do it the pure holy way, you be my guest. I'm just saying you can also do it this way and it'll still give you a trophy. But if it's any consolation, I did do the General Sao fight without taking any damage, and I'll even show you the footage sped up to prove it. So yay, go me! Please be proud of me. The other trophies I missed were like breaking signs as Carmelita in episode 1, defeating guards by luring them into water traps, and being caught wearing every wrong disguise as Sly. And since you can only do that once you have every disguise, you have to wait until the end of the game anyways. There were a couple other trophies where I needed to defeat 5 enemies with 5 different Murray power-ups, and since I waited so long to do this, I had plenty enough coins to afford them all. And there was another one where you have to put Bentley bombs into guards' pockets, which I had no idea how to do. I couldn't understand why it didn't work when I tried it, but it works every time this dude on the YouTube video does it. What? I'm sorry, why does this just do that? See, it turns out you have to press and hold the triangle button until Murray cocks the arm back, and then he'll Kobe Bryant it at the enemy.
Oh!
And the final 2 trophies I had left were reaching max pirate rank and then buying every power-up in the game. So it was time to sit back, put on some sea shanties, and sink some ships. Honestly, this only took me an hour, and it was way more fun than I thought it would be. I mean, can you imagine getting your ship blown up and off in the distance there's a T-posing raccoon on the ship's bow barreling towards you?
Dear God.
And on the plus side, all the coins I earned from looting the ships was crazily just enough to buy every last power-up in the game. And with it, my next platinum. All in all, it was a lot more fun experience than I thought it would be. Seeing the trophies ahead of time, I really thought I was going to struggle, but discovering and utilizing the rewind feature kind of made this more tolerable. I wasn't really stuck on any particular challenge, so it was less frustrating and more fun. Which is exactly what you kind of want out of trophy hunting, right? So now that I know what I'm doing, let's do it all again, one more time. You know, the funny thing is, I thought this was going to be easy. I figured that this would just be like doing the PS5 version all over again. But this time, I know all the trophies, so I can just do them right away. Boy, was I wrong. So the plan was to accomplish any of the level-specific trophies that I missed during my first playthrough. That way I have less to go back and do once I'm done. Things like breaking signs as Carmelita in episode 1, or hitting 3 enemies as the Guru in episode 2. And for the most part, yeah, those went fine. But how foolish of me to think that I could do all of the hitless trophies the first time around. I figured, so what if I get hit? I'll just rewind real quick and... no, I can't. This is the part where I learned that the rewind feature is exclusive to the PS5 version. Even if you play the PS4 version on a PS5, you can't rewind. So it's not going to be nearly as easy this time. But I still figured out a way to schmooze it, because I always do. Instead, I utilized a different function of the PS2 emulator, the save states. Basically, any of these missions I have to do damageless, I would set a save state at the beginning of the mission, and I would play it a little bit until I got to a safe place. Then I'd set another save state, and do that over and over and over again. So that way, if I do take damage, I'm only going back about 10 to 15 seconds, instead of doing the entire mission over again. Granted, it's the least sexy gameplay you've ever seen in your life, but it still counted. Now if only real life had save states.
Hey babe, does this make me look fat?
No?
Why can't you be honest with me? I saw that look on your face. I don't even ask for much. All I wanted was a simple question on if I looked good or not, but you can't even give me any type of honesty. Nothing. Not even a simple yes. I wouldn't be offended if you were at least honest with me. At least just tell me the truth. You know what? I hate how you crack your back. It is the most obnoxious thing.
So again, you can call it unethical or cheating or whatever, but all that matters is that I got the trophies and I don't have to go back and do it again. That's all I care about. And if you think that's all that's changed between the PS4 and PS5 versions, it sure isn't. Because the PS4 version somehow has even more bugs and glitches than either of the other versions. Whether it's getting stun locked and dying, bro. Sly Cooper sucks, this game sucks, everything sucks. Or the game completely breaking. Uh-oh. You know, if you're blind, why would you just like walk out, you know? Wait, was she supposed to do that? Wait, did my cutscene break? Hold on. What happened? My game broke. She like walked off and died. It's not just a coincidence either, because it happened again during the final fight of the game. I think I bugged it. Because he doesn't have a health bar, I bugged it. Wait, what am I doing? I'm out of bounds. Oh no! I've very much bugged the game. The game is broken. Guys, pack it up. The nice thing is, We have a safety save. Oh, would you look at that? Oh, that's what safety saves are really for. On the bright side though, Sly did finally show up in that cutscene he was supposed to in episode 4, but that still completely supports the fact that the PS4 version is just completely different from the other two. I also took this as an opportunity to go through and try all the 3D missions that I missed out on before. And I think it's really quirky and funny that the characters in the game also wear 3D glasses during the missions. It's a fun little touch. But the 3D still makes everything hard to see, and it even slows down the frame rate and makes the game harder to play, which especially sucks since half of the levels that you play 3D are levels that you also have to beat without getting hit for a trophy. So that was definitely quite the experience. Ugh. Why I can't get on it? How did I already fail? The 3D really is just more of a gimmick, and I can't recommend anyone try playing in the 3D modes. 3D, not even once, kids. I learned that from Spy Kids 3D. Who thought that was a good idea? Everything else went just about the same up until the end of the game, where I got to the final pirate rank and went in to buy every item and found that I was short. Like very short. And while I could have and was going to just stack up coins for a while in this one mission, there was a Sly speedrunner in my chat that insisted that I do it another way that he could teach me easily. Apparently Sly 3 is just full of a bunch of crazy exploits, and this one is no exception. Basically, you go to episode 3, play as Bentley, put his grapple cam down on a specific rooftop, and then head to the top of the Baron's castle. If you break the boxes that are there, tab into the grapple cam, and then tab out of it, the boxes respawn and you can hit them again for even more coins. And from there, you just spam R2 and square. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So I gathered up the remaining coins that I needed, bought the final items, and that's one more platinum added to the record. And all 3 platinums for Sly 3. But if you want to play this game, I would just recommend doing the PS5 version. It's a much better experience, far less glitchy, and it has the rewind. Once I have the rewind, it's hard to go back. But that wraps up all the PS2 versions of Sly Cooper, with just one more to go. Sly 4 Thieves in Time is kind of the black sheep of the series. Or should I say, the pink hippo. No, but seriously, it scored lower than all the rest. Not that 75 is bad by any means, it just scored lower than the others. Maybe part of this is the fatigue of having a 4th Sly game, but it's probably because of the fact that this was the first game outsourced and developed by a different company. And to commemorate a change of a different dev team, I've changed my setup. That's why the setup is new, no other reason. I'm actually going to move everything back to the other room for the next video. But to better understand how the fans felt about Sly 4, I brought in my resident furry to tell me his thoughts on the game.
Oh boy, okay. Sly 4 is like the equivalent of a fan fiction. Everyone knows it's not canon, but it exists. It is very hard to do exactly what Sucker Punch did when they hit gold with Sly 2 and Sly 3. That's hard. What I personally thought it was lacking was a meaningful story, and I like Sly 4, but it doesn't live up to the potential that it could have had. Like, Thieves in Time is a great concept because all we're told about is the entirety of Sly's lineage, every single opening of every game, and it's amazing that we get to explore that. And to Sanzaru's credit, they did so well with the time concept. They did well with the original mechanics of Sly Cooper. They did well with everything that, like the game mechanics that we did like, the collectibles, everything but a meaningful story that was in Sly 2 and Sly 3. What would have taken it to the next level, and I'm sure Sanzaru was very hesitant on this idea if it was brought up at all, they delve into Sly's ancestors. Who is the character that we have yet to ever see, period? That would be Sly's father. I think Sanzaru did great with everything but the story, and if they would have shown us Sly's father with the time travel and made that into its own story, I think that would have taken it to the next level.
Sanzaru Games made Sly 4, simultaneously paying homage to its predecessors while also trying to create something new. They brought back collecting bottles and opening safes, but also updated the graphics and added a ton of new abilities, like launching yourself at enemies like Incineroar. Most importantly, they added a ton of new trophies. And I really do mean a ton. While some of these other games ask for the bare minimum to get the platinum, this game asks for every collectible, every secret, every high score, and additional challenges in every episode. And since it's so much, I'd at least better get started with the story. And before I even get started, the game stops me and asks me if I want the full story. Huh? Why wouldn't I? It's not gonna be like Lego The Hobbit where the game just ends after 2/3 of the story with no conclusion, is it? Is Sly gonna go back in time, get stuck in medieval times, and then suddenly it just hits the credits? Maybe the low score would be justified. The story follows Sly picking up where he left off in Sly 3, pretending to have amnesia and living his best life with Carmelita. But the gang gets back together when Bentley notices parts of the Thievius Raccoonus are disappearing, and he uses his time machine to take the group through time to stop the criminals from changing history. This takes them through several time periods, meeting up with many of Sly's ancestors and stopping other criminals that have also gone to the past to conduct a much larger scheme with the game's main villain, Le Paradox. Boy, that was a run-on sentence. Also, Penelope seems to be surprisingly missing for no apparent reason. That won't be foreshadowing, will it? The game is split up into 5 episodes this time, with an additional prologue and final area, so it's technically the shortest game yet. And there is a lot that I did really like about this story. The new time periods provided really unique hub areas and missions, and getting to play as each special Cooper from the time period gave some fun variety to the gameplay. They're not the most charismatic characters I've ever seen.
Right.
But with each one having their own unique ability, most of them were fun to control. And I think it's fair to say that Tennessee Kid Cooper is the fan favorite, and it's pretty easy to see why. You know, aside from all the fan art. His 6-shooter even makes you feel like you're put right into a furry rendition of Red Dead Redemption. So honestly, Chapter 2 was the most fun part of the game because of it. I also genuinely love the new animated cutscenes. I might be alone on that, I get it, but they look good and I could see a whole show or series done for Sly Cooper in that style. I mean, look how cute this is. Look at them, they're all so adorable. Little Sly Cooper and Bentley and Murray. Although it seems like the change in animation has also come with a change of character too. For some reason, they felt it necessary to either change everyone's personalities or add characters that were just insufferable. Although I liked Tennessee Kid Cooper and the abilities of some of the other Coopers, I really didn't like hearing them talk.
How about you go lick a camel's hump? Okay.
Carmelita just doesn't look like Carmelita anymore, and she especially doesn't look like herself in this one scene from episode 5. Even with a new developer, they're still walking that E10 plus line. And then we have Murray, who went from being playfully ignorant to wanting to wear women's clothing whenever possible.
I'm positive the Murray could squeeze into that thing. Listen, silk is very elastic.
They gave him an entire strip scene and even tried to get him to have sex with one of the villains. What is going on here? But the worst offender has to be what they did to Penelope. Huge spoiler alert for a game that's over 10 years old now. They straight up wrote that Penelope was using Bentley the whole time to get his time travel schematics. Not only does it feel like a flip to her personality, they repeated her whole identity from the 3rd game. Just instead of the Black Baron, it's the Black Knight this time. And as someone who has never played this game until this point, I saw this coming from a mile away. Okay, that symbol on the chest, if this isn't Penelope, I'ma eat my own shoe. Of course it's Penelope, why wouldn't it be Penelope? They were only hinting at it for such a long time. Bentley, if you're so smart, how did you not see this coming? And it really doesn't help that most of the other villains are bland too. El Jefe is boring, Le Paradox isn't intimidating, and the Grizz gets scared by his own farts. The only villain I liked was Toothpick. And maybe that's just because he's certifiably insane, but it's probably because I have a soft spot for old Western themes. I might be the only person in existence who liked Disney's rendition of the Lone Ranger with Johnny Depp. But gameplay-wise, the game has a lot of good moments that are a joy to play through. The boss battles were a ton of fun, each with their own gimmicks making them unique and memorable. Well, minus the final boss, which is literally just a series of QuickTime events. And you don't even need to pay that much attention to it. I hit the wrong button like 6 times with 0 consequences. And the different abilities Sly gets with each costume is awesome for solving puzzles and discovering secrets. But then there's also the Bentley hacking missions. Because of course they bring back the Bentley hacking missions. And they brought back a lot of Bentley hacking missions. Granted, they added 2 new types with this auto-scroller directional shooter and a tilt-based monkey ball-like mechanic, but they're still Bentley hacking missions, and you know what, if I only had to do them a couple of times, I'd probably give them an easy pass. But before the end of this video, you'll see just how many times I have to go back and do these things, and then maybe you'll see things from my side. I do love some of the new quality of life additions they added, such as the mini-map in the corner and an arrow to guide you towards your next destination, and above all, they added the ability to skip cutscenes. Thank you, God! And you can tell they had fun putting together the time travel theme with not just one Back to the Future reference, but 2.
Sorry, Murray. This has to work.
Hey, that's my necklace.
Here goes nothing.
But what I think was a lot of people's problem with this game was the missed opportunities. The biggest is the fact that through the whole series, they kept Sly's dad this mysterious figure who is also renowned as one of the greatest thieves of all time. And in the game where Sly is going through time, they don't visit him, they don't see him, and they barely even mention him. At the beginning of the final mission, it's talked about how Le Paradox went to go steal a gem, but Sly's dad was the one who beat him to it. Wouldn't it make sense that Le Paradox would go back in time to try to redo that theft so that he got to the gem first? And then Sly would go back in time to meet up with his dad to try to make sure that his dad gets to it first? I'm already coming up with better ideas. But instead, they handed the franchise over to someone who has no idea what the ideas of the main story are. And instead, they just make up their own lore and piss off the fans of the franchise. And I just described Star Wars again, didn't I?
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Finishing the main story provided me with all of the main story trophies, one for each Cooper you meet along the way, and one for each chapter that you finish. There were a fair amount of other trophies that I took the time to complete during this time, like slamming 100 enemies as Murray, which was pretty easy to complete during the final mission where infinite enemies spawn. There was also paragliding for 10 seconds as Sly, which can be done in episode 5 when you go up to the tallest tower, and then shooting 40 penguins as Carmelita in episode 3, which just feels mean. Like, what did they do to deserve this? They also brought back the bottles again to mirror the way they were implemented in Sly 2. There's 30 in each episode, and collecting all of them opens a safe with a bonus inside. I made sure to get all of these bonuses before moving on to the next episodes, and a lot of them were insanely helpful. Like the first one gives you a coin magnet, bringing all nearby coins to you instantly. The second one is a coin booster, meaning every box and bad guy drops even more coins than before. And while both of those are great for inevitably having to buy every single last upgrade for the trophy, it's the third power-up that I love and think probably should have been the first one you get. This one is the Clockwork's Eye, which shows all bottle locations on the pause map and the mini-map. So you no longer have to turn your volume all the way down to listen for the clinking of the bottles, and then risk hearing the enemies poop. It would have been nicer to have this after the first episode, so I would be able to utilize it for more than just the last 2 episodes. But hey, at least they have it. And collecting every bottle in every episode has their own trophies too, and will also potentially glitch your game. What's happening? Yeah, Sly, you good there, champ? But there are still a ton more collectibles to gather too, and some of them are a little less fun than the bottles. The treasures from Sly 2 are also back, and instead of just a few of them being timed, they decided to set a time limit to all of them. And while that does sound terrible, it actually wasn't that bad. Because if you utilize the thief costume you get from the last episode, you can use it to slow down time, and that counts towards the timer. So the whole time limit part of the challenge becomes a non-factor. And it makes sense to wait until the end of the game to get all of these treasures anyway, since you need some of the bonus costumes to reach some of the secret areas where the treasures are hidden. And I also wanted to point out this one specific treasure that you can find at the end of this lava hallway in episode 3, which is a small statue of Daxter from Jak and Daxter. I love these little references and nods to other games, and it took me by surprise seeing it. But these treasures aren't just used for money, because if you collect all the treasures in one episode, it unlocks an arcade machine for that hideout. The arcade machine is essentially just a longer Bentley hacking mission, but it's a nice little completion bonus for finding all the treasures. At least that's what I thought it would be. It turns out all of these arcade machines are integrated into getting so many of the other trophies. I'm convinced I spent more time in these arcade machines than I did playing the actual story. That's not true, it just felt like it. Because first off, you have to beat the high score on every machine to get a trophy. And since you only get an arcade machine for getting every treasure, in order to attempt this trophy, you need to get all of the treasures in the game first. Then you need to be good enough at the arcade machine to get the high score. I mean, some of them are easy, but some of them are not. Mainly the tilt motion games, since I am playing this over PS Plus servers, so there is some latency and delay, and in general, these games just feel like if Super Monkey Ball was made by a toddler. This one in particular took me more than a couple tries. And the last collectible to get are the masks. While masks can be found in the hub areas like the bottles and treasures, the masks are also hidden in secret places in some of the levels. And if you try to find all of these without a guide, you might as well look for the lost city of Atlantis while you're at it. These suckers are everywhere, hidden in the craziest places in the most random levels. Although going back to get these masks did help me get some of the bonus trophies in specific levels, like not missing a single sarsaparilla when Bentley posed as a bartender in episode 2. But that's not the only place that they hid these masks. Oh no! It turns out every arcade machine you unlocked from the treasures also holds a hidden mask too. So if you didn't find them while going for the high scores, you're gonna have to go back through them again to get these collectibles. This extra sucks because getting the slime mask on the final arcade machine is a nightmare. This machine isn't just one type of Bentley missions, it's multiple back to back. And the slime mask is hidden on the second level during the tilt motion section. So you have to beat the first section and then get towards the end of the second section without falling off or running out of time. And if you don't do it fast enough, you have to start the whole arcade machine over from the first section. Luckily, I only got it after a couple of tries, but my luck only lasted so long because as I was trying to get one of the final masks from one of the final levels, the PlayStation servers lagged so bad it disconnected me from the game before I could get it. It's not just the game working against me at this point, it's all of PlayStation.
This is all your fault!
Collecting these masks unlocks different cosmetics for your characters, and collecting most, if not all of them, unlocks special weapons for Sly. By using these weapons, whether it's Cole's amp or Ratchet's wrench, will unlock another trophy for you. And the last trophy that really took up a big chunk of time was the Navigate Like Drake trophy. You wouldn't think this one would be that difficult looking at the description of it, but the description does not do it justice. It's not just going to each episode and opening the map one time, you need to look at every possible map that exists in the game. This includes every episode hub area, every hideout, and every new building or accessible area in every level. And because there's so many areas in this game, it's no wonder it's one of the rarest trophies. Like, this isn't really something someone would randomly stumble upon either, because there's multiple levels that have one small area that you're in for less than a minute, and you still need to open the map to check it. Unless you have the actual intention of looking at every map, no one would think to open the map in some of these places. Because, like, why would you when it's a boss fight area that's just one small area in front of you? Who's looking at the map for this? Like, it didn't take me nearly as long as collecting all of the masks or treasures, but the monotony of making sure I checked every map with no way of actually knowing which ones I've gotten and which ones I'm missing was definitely the least fun I had during this entire experience. But on the plus side, I did pick up a couple additional trophies while doing it, like scaling the Dragon's Lair in episode 4 in under 90 seconds. I wasn't even thinking about it or trying to do it, I was just trying to get farther into the level so I could open another map and be done with it. But that's most of the big trophies done. And at this point, I just had a few of the little ones to clean up. So I went for pickpocketing every unique piece of loot in the game. And this wasn't as bad as previous games since there's a lot less loot to collect. and the fact that the pickpocketing hitbox is a lot more generous in this game, and the ability to pickpocket while moving, took out a lot of the stress of trying to get this one done. I was already consistently pickpocketing loot during my normal playthrough, so there was only about 4 pieces that I was missing at this point. 3 of them come from these specific mice enemies that are only hard to get because it's rare enough for them to have an item to pickpocket, but there's a Murray mission in episode 4 where you get a wave of infinite enemies, and a third of them are this mouse enemy, so after about 10 minutes of cycling through them, I got all the loot that they had to offer. And the last piece of loot I was missing was the penguin mask from episode 3, which is just random to find. It weirdly took me longer than it probably should, but after a bit of trying, this was the final piece of loot I needed for the trophy. And the final bit of trophies were just more trivial things, like playing ping pong. But there were some more technical trophies, like dropping 60 bombs in enemies' pockets as Bentley, crackshotting 10 enemies in 65 seconds as Tennessee Kid Cooper, and a few hitless trophies on some of the levels, like not taking damage in Up in Smoke, and not hitting a single friendly target in the archery minigame. The one I saved for last was getting the perfect training montage in episode 3, and it's probably best I save that for last. This is the one where Bob has to do different workout routines with Murray, leading up to the final challenge of combining all the workouts together and doing them back to back in random order. And I'm kind of ashamed of how long this one took me. Part of it was definitely the PlayStation servers severely dying and ruining one of my best runs. But another part is that the Slingshot game has terrible hitboxes. This one never comes up first in the rotation, so it's not like you can get lucky and get it out of the way early, and sometimes when it swaps to it, the moving target is already halfway past the screen, and missing it ruins the perfect run, causing you to have to restart again. This was easily the closest I'd ever gotten to picking up my PlayStation and throwing it across the room. Alright, that's it. After maybe 45 minutes though, I finally got the perfect run and was rewarded with the final trophy and the platinum. Now I didn't do this live, but if I did, my reaction would have looked something like this. Finally! Sly 4 really isn't a bad game at all. It tries its best to mimic Sly 2, and why wouldn't it? Sly 2 is objectively the best game in the series. Though where it falters is mishandling the story and its characters. Outside of that, the gameplay is actually a ton of fun. The missions are engaging, the worlds are imaginative, and dare I say, the abilities and unlockables are the best in the series. And there aren't any 3D levels to hurt my eyes. Another major downside is that it's only available through PS Plus streaming unless you luckily have a copy still from over a decade ago, or you buy something off of eBay just to play this game. I genuinely enjoyed the base game, but there's so much required for getting every single collectible that it's just not as fun going for 100%. The idea of arcade machines is cool, but having them tied to so many additional collectibles and trophies makes me want to slam my head into the wall. The final Sly game isn't without its secrets either, because it's only after you get the platinum trophy that you can watch the secret ending by going to the credits again. You see that Sly is still alive, somewhere, sometime in Egypt. However, they never made another Sly game after this, so it was a big tease for nothing. Or maybe it's the most poetic of endings because it truly encompasses everything that this game is about. Missed opportunities. But I still liked it, and that was the last Sly Cooper Platinum. Besides Bentley Hack Pack. Oh, and I guess the Vita games. But the ones that matter at least. And I gotta say, I'm glad I did it. This is such a wonderful series, and it's a shame that it hasn't made a comeback. But at the same time, after 4 games, it's probably best to not overstay its welcome. If I had to order them best to worst, I'd probably say it goes 2, 3, 4, and then 1. Not that 1 is bad, just that the rest of them were so much better. All of these are amazing games, and I'd recommend them to anyone who's looking for something fun to play. So if you've gotten this far into the video, check them out. They're pretty good. And also, if you've gotten this far in the video, be sure to leave a like. I hope that you liked the video, especially if you made it to the very end. I got a couple other videos popping up. Be sure to check them out too. I worked hard on that one at least. And just thank you for clicking on this video and helping me make my dreams come true. I'm gonna get going because my dog is getting rowdy. Look at him, look how rowdy he's getting. Oh, he's so rowdy. Okay, bye. Bye, let's go. Goodbye.